Welcome to The Wing, the emotional and financial health check you never knew you needed. We provide tangible solutions for young women to build emotional health and wealth on their journey from school to motherhood. This is the podcast for young women in Australia navigating the big stuff: life, money, and motherhood. From high school to first homes, babies to bank accounts, we take you on an interactive listening journey that helps you make smart, empowered decisions every step of the way.
Hi ladies, welcome to another episode of The Wing. Today we're going to be talking about money and investments and a couple of key topics. So one of them is how your brain lies about money. Now I touched on this in a previous podcast, but on a bit slightly different topic. But this is something that you might be able to relate to, and maybe something that is worthwhile bringing to your attention so that perhaps you can start to think about investments and money in a different way that's more useful to you. So I'm giving you examples that have come from Dashdot. As you know, that is my current place of work and one of my trusted advisors as part of our team of people that are helping us get ahead. So it's some content I've pulled out from our founder, Goose, and it explains how your brain can lie about money. So I'm going to share this with you so that you can, as I said, think of things maybe a little bit differently. But I'm guessing that there's probably been a time that you may have been hit with a surprise bill that completely threw you off. I know that happened to Jake and I recently. We got our gas bill for winter. So, we thought, all right, it's probably going to be a little bit more expensive than usual. But it was the first time we actually had bill shock. We thought, oh my gosh, that was a little unexpected. But that was an example of a time that we got hit with a surprise bill. So if you can relate to that, it might be a phone bill, could be car service, could be anything really. Usually not your home loan repayments because they're usually quite consistent, plus or minus a few interest rate peaks or drop, but bill shock is a real thing. So it could even be something as simple as a missed insurance expense. Yeah, something you've forgotten about or something you didn't factor in, and then all of a sudden you're scrambling. And then that's when your stress starts to creep in, and when you start to think about, all right, well, how am I going to navigate this? I need to reprioritize what I'm spending money on this month. Without even realizing it, your brain starts writing a story. So this is a live example from the content that I am sharing with you. So I can't seem to keep my head above water is probably a common thing that you start to think. So you get this one bill and you think, oh my gosh, we're going backwards. Everything is piling on top of us. How are we going to afford the future? And you start to do that huge disservice to yourself, and that negative, unhelpful talk starts to come in. Now, if you were legitimately deep in money troubles, then those thoughts might sound logical. But in the case of bill shock, or in the case of, your brain is literally just starting to write a story, it's not logic. It's emotion masquerading as fact. So it happens more often than people realize, and there's actually a name for it. So it's called functional fixedness. So if you can remember that, functional fixedness. So it's when you hit a rough patch and emotionally project it into the future. Now, you can probably imagine this in a multitude of situations. So we're talking about money for, and bill shock and that type of thing in this instance. But you could think about this in relationships. You might hit a rough patch and then emotionally project it into the future and just think, oh my gosh, this is what's going to be like forever. I can't get out of it. This is just my life now. And again, it's that negative self-talk and those illogical comments that you say to yourself. I can relate to it in the postnatal period as well, to go back there, in that, oh my gosh, I feel awful. I'm stressed, high anxiety. I physically don't feel great. Obviously, lack of sleep, that goes without saying. But going through that rough patch and then managing to successfully convince myself that that's actually what the rest of my life is going to be like, and there is no way out, and that is just it. So I had very successfully emotionally projected all of that into my future, which was of course completely false, because I got better and I got more sleep and it all pans out eventually. But when you're in those difficult moments, it's really easy to go down the functional fixedness road, because that's just where your brain is going to take you. So bringing it back to money, essentially You're convincing yourself that this moment is permanent. But the reality is that your situation might be just fine. Jake and I had to take stock of everything after this gas bill. We were like, right, okay, so we've got to work out, like, what are we paying on? So our kids aren't currently in daycare, so we are saving some money there. But there's other costs, obviously, that comes into the pattern. We've got 2 different nannies on rotation, and, they fill in some parts of the week that I need to work or get a tiny little bit of downtime to do the groceries online. We've got some costs there, and then we've got just the general running expenses of the house, like most people do, and car costs and other bills and mortgage repayments and investment repayments and that type of thing. So we're now taking stock of everything because we're thinking, oh my God, we got this giant bill, which we were able to pay, but it just made us feel like we were going backwards, and that we had convinced ourselves that firstly, we're going to get another bill like that in spring, which we won't, or that this is just our life now. It gave us a sense of falling backwards, which is not a nice feeling. So it's the mental state that is off. It's not your actual financial position. So again, it's good. Jake's really good at this. He's really good at zooming out and just saying, hang on, like he's done up a budget, and, we're both across that, and we know what money's coming in and going out roughly, pretty much monthly, quarterly. So it's not like there should be anything that is of a great shock. So even when we do receive those bills, we shouldn't be spiraling backwards thinking, oh my God, what do we do? We can be thinking that, okay, this is a bill. It's budgeted in. It's all part of it. So yeah, it's not our actual financial position, and this is the whole mindset thing. There's some tips here. So on how to view this rather than actually just diving into the negative and thinking, okay, well, yeah, this is it for me for now, and I'm not going to be able to afford to do this, or this. So there's 3 steps that you can essentially follow to get out of this functional fixedness. So step 1 is to zoom out. So as I said, Jake's really good at that. Zoom out and just take a look at your bigger picture. So if it is a bill, I'm using bills as an example, then, it might be purchasing a new house, and you haven't yet had, you might be upgrading, so your repayments might be more. You're used to paying a lot less. It's that perspective of, okay, we'll zoom out. All right, if it is a house, well, you've bought that because your goal is to get ahead, and it's a better living space for you and your family, and it's something that you'd search for, and the long-term gain of owning something better than your previous property or better than owning no property at all is the long-term outcomes are going to be this, and this. If it is something smaller like a bill that has shocked you, then again, zooming out. Well, you needed that power source to survive in that period of time. For us, we needed to stay warm in winter and keep our toddlers warm at the same time. So being able to zoom out and just have that perspective on your situation rather than zooming in and thinking, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world. Step 2 is to use actual data, not emotions, to assess your finances. This is definitely something this is a learned behavior. I think naturally we're all humans. So it doesn't matter what we're doing or what we're partaking in. There's always going to be a level of emotion, whether that's buying something, selling something, making some sort of change, trying something new, deleting something old. There's always going to be, those are very broad topics, but there's always going to be some level of emotion. But when it comes to assessing your finances, using emotion is extremely unhelpful. So if you can refer to the data and refer to the facts on that bill, or refer to the facts on that season, or refer to the facts on that house or that investment purchase, then you're going to be able to have a clearer mindset and not be bogged down by the stress of it and think, oh my gosh, what have I done? It's a more pragmatic approach where you're going, okay, all right, well, that's that. And that's just something that's just part of it all. So we just tick that box and move on. Step number 3 is to make your next move from a place of calm, not panic. If you're calm about the situation, like I sort of explained there, and you're not panicking about it, then not only is your next move going to be likely to be more strategic, but you're not going to make a panic decision like, oh my gosh, we got this huge bill, we've got to sell the house, or oh my gosh, we've got to take the kids out of this school or out of this program because we just can't do this anymore. Obviously, there may be times where you do need to shuffle things, but if you're making those decisions from a place of calm and not panic, then you've got the upper hand on your own life. It's not magic and it's not motivational fluff. It's actually how you avoid sitting out of the market while prices keep climbing without you. Because if you're fearing, when you're talking about investments, if you're fearing that things might feel a bit tight, or you've got unexpected expenses, or interest rates go up, or things that are happening around you that maybe you can't control. Maybe you can control them, but it's that feeling of out of control. And then that's when you go and you retreat into the functional fixedness and start to project your emotional current state into the future. So another thing to add to this topic is going back to the function of property investment in your wealth building journey. Your biggest money risk isn't bad markets, it's bad decisions. Or holding back for a better time. Everybody has their own ideal time to enter the market if property investment is one of the roads that you are planning to go down. And again, depends on your mindset and your risk tolerance and all of those things. But if you're worried that buying your own home too early can lock up your cash and spike your costs, you could actually just be stalling your investment momentum for years. So being able to take a different mindset on the money situation and like how your brain is literally lying to you about money, you can apply it in so many different situations. So, even like I'm using the example here as an investment property. So you can be getting into the market and taking those risks, I guess, because they are all risks. Anything to do with money can be a risk. You're able to look at things in a more logical way and I guess and avoid the avoiding, so that you're able to make sure that you are on the right trajectory. And these things can be scary, but not letting your brain lie to you about money. And then, if you do secure an investment property and then maybe things are actually a little bit tighter for you, but you know that you're doing that for a long-term benefit, a long-term outcome. So trying to, again, zoom out and use the logic and the data and the numbers and not act on emotion or respond in emotion is what's going to be the best thing to help you move forward. Some more content that I'm going to refer to in this podcast is the trap of chasing cash flow. This is specifically to do with property investment. So it's looking at things like, making sure you've got really high yield and making sure that you're chasing the high rents and seeing how much cash you could squeeze out of any deal that you do. But what the real crux of it all is, if these are things that you're chasing without a strategy, it could stall your entire process. So you might be looking for quick wins on getting the biggest bang for buck in the shortest amount of time when it comes to property. It could be for any investment, really. But if you don't have a strategy around it, that's what can actually stall the whole process anyway. So if you're optimizing too early for cash flow, then you could be sacrificing on growth. So, if you're getting that extra money in through a rental, through an investment property per month, but the equity in the property isn't building, then your borrowing capacity stays stuck. So you can't borrow again. You can't borrow against that property and you can't scale your portfolio because you're too focused on the quick wins rather than the longer term gains, which is ultimately building equity within your properties. So chasing cash flow too early, as I said, can limit your chance to grow and build your wealth for the long term. So if you sink everything into a principal place of residence, then it might be unlikely that you make it past that first property purchase, or that you're open to buying more investments. There's some stats from the ATO on the content that I'm drawing from Dashdot as well. So this one's from the ATO. But so 71% of property investors get stuck after just one investment, and less than 1% ever achieve financial freedom. So those are very sobering stats in terms of the ability for people to get what they need out of the investment property market, and the importance of finding a right strategy to help you scale, to make sure that your purchases are sequenced in the right order, and to base the decisions and everything that you're doing on capital cash flow and borrowing power, so that you can build a real portfolio. Because you can't, if one of those things is lacking, or one of those elements, the capital cash flow or borrowing power, doesn't line up for you, then you're not able to, yes, accumulate debt, but in a positive way. And you're not able to build your property portfolio and build the equity over time so that you can borrow against it and increase your borrowing capacity and start to explore a whole range of different things in terms of different structure setups. So how you're actually going to purchase these properties. Is it going to be in trusts? Is it going to be in SMSFs? What are you going to do with it? And how to actually get there. So I think with the way that your brain can play tricks on you with money, or that the way that your brain lies about money, it also falls into the category of upper limiting beliefs. So if you've got upper limiting beliefs that are really dismantling your property journey or your investment journey in any way, you need to really do some digging on debunking those. And whether that is with a psychologist, whether that is picking up some handy self-help books, that trust me, there are plenty of them, particularly in the money space, to help you rejig your mindset to feeling like you're able to take these things on, and you actually want this growth, and then putting in place a team around you to be able to execute. So you're going to need a really good accountant. You may need a really good financial planner. Again, this is not financial advice by any means, so just trying to point you in the right direction. A really good solicitor, when it is coming to purchasing time, to dot all your I's and cross all your T's. A portfolio partner, that's Dashdot. And then, the other kind of facets that work around the whole lot for you, so that you're able to lean on professional opinions and professional strategy, so that you're not guessing and you are not just taking stabs in the dark and hoping for the best and thinking, okay, I think this is a good investment, I'm going to buy that, and fingers crossed for the next 15 years. You don't actually need to do that now. There are resources available to young people in Australia that you can access to change your money blueprint and think about money in a different way, and help you build wealth sooner and be part of that 1% that does achieve financial freedom. Again, how is financial freedom measured? Is it a number in your bank account? Is it the ability to stop work early? Is it the ability to reduce work? What does that actually look like for you or for you and your family? So I think that is a very quick episode today, but I think that the points are clear, and I don't think we need to harp on the details too much more, but hopefully that was clear enough, and hopefully that triggers some different thinking for you and that you're able to apply it to your own life. If you have any questions, or you would like some more information on any of the services that I have explained that I believe that you need great guidance with from the professionals, and we have a host of resources that we can refer your way and get you on the right path for success. Thank you so much for listening, ladies, and we'll catch you on the next pod of the wing. Bye.
Enjoyed the episode? Hit follow and check out _wingpod Oz on Instagram for a dose of wisdom getting you on the right path to success.